Dark Souls 3 is my favorite Dark Souls game. It also ended the Dark Souls series. It came out basically 8 years ago, back in 2016. It's an amazing game. One of my favorite Souls games. Does it still hold up? Let's get into it. The Souls games' stories can be very confusing. It's no different with this one. But I believe each Souls game takes place hundreds of years in between each other. I'm not 100% about that, but I think I've seen that somewhere. But basically, in Dark Souls 3, this world is dying, and your whole goal is to relink the flame. There's different endings. You can continue the flame, you can put it out, lots of different choices. But you play as an Ashen One, and you're like an undead character. Every time you die, you respawn, so you can't like fully die. Firelink Shrine is this game's hub world, if you will, in a sense. You'll upgrade weapons here, you'll buy items from the handmaid, you'll recruit NPCs to come here later to buy spells, miracles, pyromancies, lots of different merchants, and you can talk to the Firekeeper to level up, which will require souls from defeating enemies. Lots of stuff to do here, and even outside of Firelink Shrine, there's a tower you can go into, and you can meet Sparkly the Crow, and give the bird items, and there's just lots to do here. The main goal in this game is to find the Wards of Cinder and defeat them. Then you bring their ashes back to Firelink Shrine and put them on the pedestals. And that's how you get to the final area of the game to fight the final boss. The boss fights in this game are a lot of fun. Some are better than others. Some are easier than others, while some are more challenging. It's like that in every Souls game. But the boss fights on here are a big point of this game that really make it amazing. The boss fights are great. Love them. There's a lot of optional ones, and then there's the mandatory ones that you need to beat to get to the Lords of Cinder. But yeah, lots of boss fights, lots of fun. There's lots of areas to explore and traverse in this game. Irithyll, Boreal Valley, it has great lighting and it looks amazing, and so does Archdragon Peak. Both very, very good looking areas, especially for an 8-year-old game. I will say Farron Keep Swamp, that area is annoying. You get poisoned while you're traversing it, and it's just, you get stuck in like the muddy swamp water. It's just kind of annoying. Probably my least favorite area, but lots of cool areas to explore. The graphics in this game look good. Now, if you zoom in on NPCs' faces when they're talking, sometimes their mouths don't even move. It is an 8-year-old game, but the graphics really do hold up, especially if you like played like on a PS5. I think there's a update to make it run in 4K. I'm not entirely sure, but it looks good. It's not like Elden Ring type graphics, but the graphics do hold up. I like them a lot. There's lots of different weapons in this game, some better than others. For me, I just used the longsword throughout the whole game, and I think I used the kite shield. Basically, just basic stuff, you know. I just never bothered to change them out. It got me through the whole game, though. And there's weapon arts, so some weapons have like different abilities you can use that cost magic. So, you know, you can experiment with all that stuff. You can also upgrade your weapons with Titanite shards. You'll have like Titanite, different kinds that can only upgrade to +3, and then there's like Titanite slabs or something that you can fully level your weapon up to like level 10. So go and explore and kill different enemies and find them. You can also infuse your weapon with different gems to give it, like, magic damage, I believe. I hardly use this feature, but you can infuse your weapon with, like, a lightning gem or something, and dark gem, and I believe they'll do, like, magic damage, so that's pretty cool. It's kind of like bleed swords, how they do bleed damage, stuff like that. There's lots of different NPCs you'll encounter, especially if you're doing their quest lines. You'll get to learn about them and their character arcs. I will say, if you don't have a guide, you're most likely going to miss a lot of side quests, because they can be confusing on here. And if you, like, interact with another NPC, it could, like, affect that one's side quest. Like, if you give a pale tongue to one of the covenants, Rosaria's covenant, I believe, it can affect Cirrus' questline. So it can just get really confusing. But yeah, Patches, you know, he's like in every Souls game just about. That sneaky, you know, person. But the side quests are fun. They give you rewards that you need, especially like gestures. If you're going for like a platinum or all the achievements for gestures, they give you them. So yeah, definitely just try to keep track of them. Siegward of Katarina, he's a great character. Lots of cool people to interact with. Some NPCs that you can recruit back to Firelink Shrine, you'll have to save. Like Grey Rat, you'll have to help him escape from Lothric Castle out of a jail cell. Same thing with the pyromancy guy, Cortex or whatever. You'll have to save him from a cage. And Ordex, the spell guy, you'll have to go and find him right before the Crystal Sage boss fight. You go up a couple stairs and he'll be up there. And so if you want those NPCs to come back to Firelink Shrine to learn pyromancies, miracles, spells, even like Irina, you have to save her because she's locked in a cell. Yeah, so just explore thoroughly and try to find them. The enemies on this game aren't like anything impossible, just like any Souls game. Each area, the enemies will get a little bit tougher, a little bit more stronger, do a little bit more damage, but it's nothing you can't manage. As long as you're keeping up with your upgrades of your equipment and everything. I will say you can get ganked, as in like jumped by a million enemies at once on here, very frequently, especially if you get back into a corner. So just be careful not to let that happen, especially because the camera can get a little finicky sometimes. You can heal yourself on here with an Estus flask, which will replenish your health, and then you got like the one for magic as well. Throughout the world on Dark Souls 3, you'll find Estus shards, and you can get those and give them to the blacksmith, and you can reinforce your Estus flask, and you'll have an extra one. So there's like 15 total, I believe. And then you have undead bone shards, which you go to the Firelink Shrine bonfire and burn an undead bone shard, and that will increase how much health it replenishes. So those both basically work together. So you want to find Estus shards and the undead bone shards. Estus shards increase how many Estus flasks you have, and undead bone shards increase how much health it replenishes. I've mentioned that the boss fights on here are very fun. It's a high point of this game that has going for it. Some boss fights are easier than others, some are harder than others. A lot of people overhype the Nameless King. So each boss fight in this game, I knew nothing about going into it. I don't like look up anything. I like to figure it out myself. I've only died at least like 4 times on each boss, nothing more. The Nameless King I probably died like 7 times, but that's probably because like the first 4 attempts, he is a 2-phase boss fight, like many of these bosses do, or at least for most boss fights, when you lower their health to a certain point, they like get aggressive once their health's at like halfway. But the Nameless King, the first half of the fight, he's on a dragon, and I was hitting the dragon on his legs. I'm like, why is he not taking any damage? But you have to hit the dragon's head. So once you know that, it only took like 2 tries after that to kill the Nameless King. His attacks are a little delayed, but honestly, he's an optional boss. But if you're going for the platinum, you need to fight him. But honestly, he's really not that bad. I think people overhyped him. Pontiff Sullivan, I think he was a harder fight than that, honestly. But, you know, everybody's different. No boss fight in this game was that hard. I mean, you have to learn his attacks, each boss's attacks, but no boss really made me struggle hard, you know? There's different covenants in this game that you can join and give them covenant items, and you'll receive rewards like rings or a spell. The covenants on here can kind of be annoying if you're going for the platinum, especially covenant grinding. Oh my gosh, covenant grinding is annoying. You can spend hours killing certain enemies and you'll never get the item that they drop that you need. Yeah, you can go online and invade people and try to get the items that way, but it's an 8-year-old game, so there's not like that many people playing, but there's still enough. I've run into a lot of people, but not like a million, you know. But each covenant, there's tons of them. I will say the Moundmaker's Covenant, make sure you join it before you fight the Great Rotwood boss, because otherwise you'll be locked out of it, I believe. So yeah, just a lot of stuff. The covenants are kind of annoying, but yeah. Speaking of being invaded, you can get invaded by other players if you're online and didn't set your status default to offline. So you can get invaded by NPCs and other players. So in Dark Souls 3, you have an ember, and so if you burn the ember, it gives you extra health, and so you'll be in embered form. But that lets people invade you. So if you're not embered, I don't believe you can be invaded. But if you are embered, you can. So you get like extra health, but embers can be hard to find sometimes. You can buy them from the Shrine Maiden, but that's when NPCs will invade you and online people. And online people, they want to invade you so they can get those covenant items, you know, but too bad for them. I denied them that glory. You know, you always get invaded by someone with like meta weapons and all that, and then they still fail. But being invaded can be annoying, especially if you're like on New Game Plus and you're just trying to get through an area quickly. You get invaded and it's like, oh my gosh, because when you're invaded, you can't use the bonfire. You can't even quit the game, I believe, either. I mean, I guess you can go back to the dashboard of your console and then exit out, but yeah. Then you wouldn't save the game at that point, so yeah. They're not hard to deal with, they just can be annoying when you're like busy doing something, but yeah. Once you get all of the Lords of Cinder gathered together, you'll go to the final boss area. You'll climb up this cliff, and you'll fight the Soul of Cinder, the final boss, which he's like a combination of all of the previous characters who have linked the flame. So him as a final boss, it literally only took me 2 tries. I'm not even joking. Yes, I used a lot of Estus flasks, but it's a fun boss fight, and it's really cool, and I love the music and just the colors, and he's a cool boss, but it was a little too easy, especially for a final boss. But yeah, that's interesting, because I heard some people have like trouble with him, but he really wasn't that bad. He has like 2 phases. You deplete his health bar once, and then it'll come back another time. I was hoping it would come back 3 times. That's just what I thought, because it was like too easy. But no, after the second one, it's just done. And so, if you acquired Dark Sigils earlier in the game to do like Uria's questline, you can get the Usurpation ending. And then you can like link the flame, that's like the normal ending. And then there's another ending, but there's a couple more endings too, I believe. So not just 3, maybe. I think there's a couple extra, but 3 for trophies. So yeah, you can just choose whatever ending you want. You could save scum and do it that way. I did not, but you could. But yeah, man, super fun game. Like 10 out of 10. I love it so much. There's just so much to explore. So many cool boss fights. People will complain that this game is very linear. Like the areas are just like straightforward. You can't really get lost. I will say Firelink Swamp, as I mentioned earlier, it can be kind of a pain in the butt to traverse. You can kind of get lost. It's not like that big, but you can still get lost. Everything looks the same almost. But I don't really care if it's kind of linear, you know? At least you don't like get like, oh, where am I supposed to go, you know? But there are tons of different paths to explore, and so much you could miss. You know, just take your time and explore, especially on your first playthrough. Such an amazing game. I love it so much. There is DLC, 3 of them. The Ashes of Ariandel, the Ring City, and another one. I want to play through those. I'm trying to platinum this right now. But if I do play the DLC, I will do that in a different video. Similarly, how I did with Elden Ring. It's DLC I did in a separate video, but yeah. This game's amazing. It still does hold up. And it's one of my favorite Souls games. Go play it. Have fun. And I'll see you next time.